The midsummer night settled over the suburban neighborhood like a shroud, casting elongated shadows across the neatly trimmed lawns and quiet streets. Emily, a seasoned babysitter known for her calm demeanor, settled in for the evening at the Johnsons' house. The Johnsons were attending a late anniversary dinner, leaving their 2 children, Lucy and Jake, under Emily's care. As the children were tucked into bed, Emily busied herself with homework while occasionally checking on the sleeping youngsters. A muffled ring from her phone startled her. Glancing at the screen, she frowned. An unknown number blinked back at her. Shrugging it off as a wrong number, she muted the ringer and returned to her studies. Minutes later, the phone vibrated again. Emily glanced at it, her curiosity piqued. Another call from the same unknown number. This time she answered cautiously. "Hello?" Silence greeted her on the other end. Frowning, she repeated her greeting, only to be met with continued silence. A cold feeling ran down her back, but she dismissed it as a prank call from some bored teenager. Resuming her tasks, Emily heard the phone ring again. She hesitated but answered once more. This time, a raspy voice whispered, "I can see you." Her breath hitched. "Who is this?" The line went dead. A cold sweat prickled Emily's skin as she scanned the house. The uneasy feeling lingered as she forced herself to believe it was just someone's idea of a sick joke. She convinced herself to check the house thoroughly before alerting the authorities. She tiptoed from room to room, heart pounding in her chest. The unnerving quiet of the house magnified every creak of the floorboards. Emily's nerves were taut as she finished her search, finding nothing out of place. Just as she was about to return to her studies, the phone buzzed again. Trembling, she answered, her voice quivering. "Who's there?" The same silence followed until a guttural chuckle echoed through the line. "You won't find me. I'm much closer than you think." The terror clawed at Emily's throat. She stumbled backward, dropping the phone. Her mind raced, urging her to flee, but she couldn't leave the children alone. Adrenaline surged through her veins as she rushed to the children's room, intent on protecting them. But as she entered, she heard a voice, a low, sinister whisper, from beneath Lucy's bed. "You shouldn't have come here." Emily's blood ran cold. She spun around to see a shadowy figure emerging from the darkness, a twisted grin etched across their face. Panic surged, but she had to protect the children. Summoning her courage, Emily lunged toward the intruder, grappling with them in a frenzied struggle. The room echoed with desperate cries and the thud of bodies colliding against the walls. Amidst the chaos, Emily managed to wrestle the intruder to the ground. Gasping for breath, she turned on the light. Her blood ran icy. Lying on the floor was a deranged man, wild-eyed and grinning maniacally. His appearance was disheveled, and a glint of madness sparkled in his eyes. Suddenly, the police sirens blared outside, their flashing lights casting a glow into the room. With a final surge of strength, the intruder lunged at Emily, a glinting knife in his hand. The world spun. Emily's scream mingled with the shrill sound of the children's cries as the blade descended. The police burst through the door, but it was too late. They found Emily lying lifeless on the floor, a victim of a twisted stranger's madness. The police burst through the door, their boots thudding against the hardwood floor, but it was too late. They found Emily lying lifeless on the floor, a victim of a twisted stranger's madness. Her body was still warm, the scene a tableau of horror that would haunt the officers for years to come. The intruder lay motionless nearby, a grim reminder of the violent struggle that had unfolded in the once peaceful children's room. The children, Lucy and Jake, huddled together in a corner, tears streaming down their faces, their innocent eyes witnessing a nightmare no child should endure. Paramedics rushed in, but their efforts were futile. Emily's life had been ruthlessly snatched away, leaving a void in the hearts of those who knew her and a lingering sense of dread in the community. The investigation unfolded in the following days, revealing dark details. The intruder had been lurking within the house for hours, concealing himself expertly while tormenting Emily with menacing phone calls. He had carefully planned this macabre intrusion, preying upon the unsuspecting babysitter and the innocent children. As the news spread, the neighborhood was gripped by fear. Parents clutched their children closer, and whispers of safety precautions echoed through the streets. The Johnsons, devastated by the tragedy that unfolded in their home, grappled with guilt and sorrow. The police combed through evidence, piecing together the twisted motivations of the intruder. They discovered a history of mental illness and a string of past incidents that hinted at the perpetrator's escalating violence. However, it offered no solace to Emily's family or the traumatized children who had witnessed the horror firsthand. The community rallied in support, organizing vigils and fundraisers to honor Emily's memory and to aid the grieving family. The incident served as a wake-up call, prompting discussions on safety measures and the importance of vigilance, even in seemingly secure neighborhoods. Months passed, but the wounds remained fresh. The Johnsons moved away, unable to bear the haunting memories that lingered within the walls of their once happy home. Emily's legacy endured in the hearts of those who knew her, a beacon of kindness and warmth that the world had lost to senseless brutality. Her tragic fate stood as a stark reminder that evil often wore the guise of normalcy, lurking in the shadows, waiting for an opportunity to strike. Story 2. The town of Glenview nestled alongside a serene river, its waters shimmering under the moonlit sky. Yet a pall of fear had settled upon the community due to a series of unexplained drownings. Young men had been found dead in the river, each time marked by a graffiti of a sinister smiley face near the scene. Among the concerned townsfolk was Luke, a college student with an insatiable curiosity. The mysterious deaths had captured his attention, and he found himself drawn into investigating the incidents. Armed with a determination to uncover the truth, Luke delved into the strange circumstances. He combed through local archives and interviewed witnesses, hoping to unravel the perplexing sequence of events. His quest led him to discover that the victims had no apparent connections, leaving authorities baffled. However, a common thread emerged: the unmistakable graffiti of a grinning face, scrawled near the riverside where each tragic incident occurred. Luke's inquiries led him to a group of friends who were closely acquainted with the latest victim, Caleb. They spoke of a jovial young man, full of life, whose tragic demise remained a haunting mystery. Determined to dig deeper, Luke ventured alone to the riverbank, the moon casting an ethereal glow upon the rippling waters. As he examined the graffiti etched onto the nearby wall, a cold feeling struck him. The smiley face seemed to mock the darkness that lurked beneath the surface. Night after night, Luke returned to the riverside, hoping for a breakthrough. Each time, the sense of dread grew stronger, an ominous feeling that whispered of unseen danger lurking in the shadows. One fateful evening, as Luke lingered near the water's edge, a faint splash echoed in the stillness. He turned, his heart pounding, to behold a figure emerging from the depths of the river. The figure, shrouded in darkness, approached with an unhurried gait. A silence enveloped the scene, broken only by the gentle lapping of the river against the shore. Before Luke could react, the stranger stepped into the moonlight. His face bore an unsettling grin, mirroring the infamous graffiti that had haunted the town. "Curiosity leads to unfortunate ends," the stranger spoke in a voice that sent a jolt down Luke's spine. Terrified, Luke stumbled backward, his mind racing with fear and disbelief. He turned to flee, but his feet felt as heavy as stone. Panic clawed at his chest as he realized the sinister truth. He was face to face with the mysterious killer. In a swift, horrifying moment, Luke was plunged into the embrace of the river. The icy waters enveloped him, dragging him into the dark depths below. The moon bore witness to the scene, a solitary figure disappearing beneath the surface, leaving behind only ripples on the tranquil river. The following day, Luke's absence stirred concern among the townspeople. A search ensued along the riverbank, but no trace of him was found, save for a faintly drawn smiley face etched onto a nearby wall. The mystery deepened, leaving the town of Glenview haunted by the unexplained disappearances and the smiley faces that seemed to mock their efforts to uncover the truth. As Luke's disappearance echoed through Glenview, a ripple of fear surged within the community. The mystery of the smiley face killer deepened, casting a shadow of unease over the once tranquil town. Concerned whispers filled the air, and the local authorities redoubled their efforts to unravel the sinister puzzle that had claimed the lives of young men. Among those haunted by Luke's vanishing was his friend Sarah. She couldn't shake the feeling of guilt, believing she had unwittingly led Luke into danger by sharing their investigation findings. Determined to uncover the truth and honor Luke's memory, she delved into his notes and research. Sarah retraced Luke's steps, revisiting the riverside where he had last been seen. The moon's pale glow reflected off the calm waters, casting a luminescence across the scene. As she scrutinized the graffiti on the wall, a sense of unease struck her. The smiley face seemed to leer, an ominous presence marking the site of tragedy. Driven by both fear and resolve, Sarah continued her quest for answers. She sought solace in the stories of those who knew the victims, hoping to find a hidden connection that could shed light on the inexplicable deaths. Her investigation led her to an elderly man named Mr. Hastings, a longtime resident of Glenview known for his reclusive nature. Rumors hinted at his knowledge of the town's history, and Sarah believed he might hold clues to the elusive killer's identity. With cautious determination, Sarah visited Mr. Hastings at his secluded cottage on the outskirts of town. The elderly man greeted her with a mix of curiosity and apprehension, his eyes betraying a hidden sorrow that mirrored the town's unease. After gaining his trust, Sarah delicately broached the subject of the smiley face killer. To her surprise, Mr. Hastings' expression darkened and a tremor passed through his frail frame. He spoke in hushed tones, revealing fragments of a long-buried tale. Decades ago, Glenview had been a different place, its past cloaked in shadows of a tragic incident. Mr. Hastings recounted the story of a group of young friends, vibrant and carefree, whose lives were intertwined with the river's serenity. However, a series of unexplained drownings had shattered the town's peace. "There was darkness within the waters," Mr. Hastings murmured, his voice quivering with memories of bygone days. "Something dark that yearned for the souls of the innocent." Sarah's heart raced as Mr. Hastings unveiled an old journal, its weathered pages recounting occurrences that bore an uncanny resemblance to the recent deaths. The journal spoke of strange symbols etched near the river, symbols that mirrored the haunting smiley face graffiti found today. Driven by a desperate need for closure, Sarah pored over the journal's cryptic entries. Amidst the faded ink, she stumbled upon a strange passage, a ritual to appease the river's vengeful spirit, an ancient entity believed to exact retribution on those who dared to unravel its secrets. Doubt and fear gnawed at Sarah's resolve, but the need to honor Luke's memory outweighed her trepidation. Armed with newfound knowledge, she ventured back to the river, clutching the journal as her only guide. The moon hung low in the night sky as Sarah approached the water's edge, the faint murmur of the river an ominous backdrop. She hesitated, feeling an unseen force urging her to turn back. But the memory of Luke spurred her forward. With trembling hands, Sarah followed the journal's instructions, reciting the ancient incantation in a voice that wavered with uncertainty. A sense of dread loomed, the air thick with a strange anticipation. As the final words left her lips, the river stirred, its surface rippling with an otherworldly energy. A gust of wind swept through the air, carrying with it a guttural whisper. Suddenly, the water churned violently, and from its depths emerged a figure, a spectral apparition cloaked in shadows, bearing a grotesque semblance of a scary grin. Sarah's heart raced, terror coursing through her veins as the apparition materialized before her, its form twisted and ethereal. It bore an unmistakable resemblance to the smiley face, a spectral representation of the ancient entity that haunted Glenview's waters. In a moment of horrific realization, Sarah understood the truth. The smiley face wasn't the mark of a killer, but a warning, an ancient symbol guarding a vengeful spirit's domain. The apparition fixated its ghastly gaze upon her, an inscrutable expression etched upon its spectral visage. As fear immobilized her, the spirit extended an ephemeral hand toward Sarah, beckoning her toward the river's dark embrace. A bone-chilling scream pierced the night as Sarah's silhouette vanished into the swirling depths, swallowed by the river's ominous embrace. The moon bore witness to the harrowing event, a lone figure disappearing beneath the waters, leaving behind only ripples on the surface, a grim testament to the haunting legacy of Glenview's spectral guardian. Story 3. In the digital landscape of social media, Jenny found solace. An introvert by nature, she sought companionship through online forums, connecting with like-minded individuals who shared her interests in literature and art. Among her online acquaintances was a user named Eclipse23. Their interactions began innocently enough, a shared admiration for classic literature, discussions about favorite paintings, and the comfort of exchanging thoughts without the pressure of face-to-face encounters. Jenny found herself drawn to Eclipse 23's captivating intellect and engaging conversations. As their online friendship blossomed, Eclipse 23 shared tales of their life, a mysterious and compelling narrative that piqued Jenny's curiosity. Yet despite their frequent exchanges, Eclipse 23 remained an enigma, refusing to divulge personal details or share any photos. Intrigued by the air of mystique surrounding Eclipse 23, Jenny yearned to unravel the veiled identity behind the screen. Her initial trust waned, replaced by a growing unease, a nagging suspicion that Eclipse 23 wasn't who they claimed to be. Despite her reservations, Jenny couldn't deny the pull of their online connection. She hesitated to confront Eclipse 23, fearing the dissolution of the friendship that had become an integral part of her routine. One fateful evening, as the clock struck midnight, Eclipse 23 sent an urgent message, a cryptic invitation to meet in person. Jenny's pulse quickened, torn between apprehension and an insatiable curiosity to unveil the mysterious persona behind the screen. Against her better judgment, Jenny agreed to the clandestine encounter, choosing a well-lit cafe nestled within the heart of the city for their meeting. Anxiety churned in her stomach as she waited, scanning the room for a glimpse of Eclipse 23. A figure approached, cloaked in a dark hoodie, their face concealed beneath the shadows of the hood. The air crackled with tension as Eclipse 23 slid into the seat opposite Jenny, the faint lighting obscuring their features. "Finally we meet," Eclipse 23's voice resonated, laced with an unsettling undertone that made Jenny freeze up. Their conversation, once lively and engaging, now felt strained and unnerving. Eclipse 23's cryptic remarks and evasive answers only fueled Jenny's discomfort, shattering the illusion of camaraderie she had envisioned. As the evening wore on, Jenny's unease transformed into a gnawing sense of dread. A realization dawned upon her. The person sitting across from her was nothing like the charming intellectual presence she had come to know online. A wave of apprehension washed over Jenny, prompting her to hastily excuse herself from the unsettling encounter. Her heart pounded with a mix of fear and relief as she fled the cafe, the feeling of unease lingering like a sinister shadow. Later that night, upon returning to the safety of her home, Jenny received a message from Eclipse 23, a revelation that turned her blood cold. "You shouldn't have run away, Jenny. I know where you live now." Panic surged through her veins and she glanced around her apartment, heart pounding in her chest. She locked the doors and windows, her mind racing with horrifying possibilities. How had Eclipse 23 discovered her address? Minutes turned into agonizing hours as Jenny remained huddled in her apartment, the fear of an imminent threat consuming her thoughts. She considered contacting the authorities, but without concrete evidence or a real identity, it felt futile. Just as she dared to hope for a respite from the terror, a faint knock echoed from her front door. Her breath caught in her throat as she tiptoed toward the peephole, heart pounding with trepidation. A hooded figure stood outside, their face concealed within the shadows. She heard a voice that emanated from beyond the door. "I told you, Jenny, you can't escape me." With trembling hands, Jenny frantically reached for her phone to call for help, but the lights flickered ominously, plunging the apartment into darkness. Her heart raced as the reality of her vulnerable state dawned upon her. The hooded figure's laughter reverberated through the hollow silence, growing louder as it crept closer to the door, a grim reminder of the horrifying truth. Eclipse 23's deception had transformed into a menacing reality, a terrifying encounter with an unknown and sinister presence. The night ended in terror, a harrowing reminder that behind the facade of anonymity lay the lurking danger of deceptive connections. Jenny's pulse quickened, her breath shallow and rapid as she huddled in the corner of her darkened apartment. The hooded figure's ominous presence lingered outside her door, an alarming reminder of the dangerous depths lurking behind the facade of her online acquaintance, Eclipse 23. Her phone lay just out of reach, its screen flickering in the blackness that enveloped the room. Jenny's mind raced, grappling with fear and desperation. The realization of her vulnerability in the face of this unknown threat made her pulse rise. As she strained to control her panicked breathing, a sudden movement caught her eye, a faint glow emanating from her laptop on the coffee table. It flickered, the screen illuminating the room with an odd blue hue. Jenny's heart raced with a mix of dread and curiosity. Despite her apprehension, she inched closer, her fingers trembling as she reached for the laptop. The device seemed to beckon her, offering a lifeline amidst the encroaching darkness. With a hesitant touch, Jenny opened the laptop, revealing the screen displaying her chat history with Eclipse 23. A flurry of messages appeared, each more alarming than the last. "You can't hide forever, Jenny. I know everything about you." The words glowed ominously on the screen, a stark reminder of the looming threat outside her door. Jenny's mind raced with fear, grappling for a solution amidst the overwhelming dread. In a desperate attempt to seek help, she accessed a messaging app, typing frantic pleas for assistance to a friend. Her fingers trembled on the keys, the urgency of her situation propelling her forward. But as she hit send, the screen froze, the cursor blinking ominously before it vanished altogether. Panic surged through Jenny as she realized her only hope of reaching out was now lost. The sound of footsteps echoed outside her door, growing closer with each passing second. Jenny's breath hitched, her heart pounding in her chest as she searched desperately for an escape route. She scanned the room, her eyes darting to the window. With a surge of determination, she lunged toward it, fumbling to open the latch in a frenzied attempt to flee the encroaching danger. As she pushed the window open, a gust of cold night air rushed in. But before she could clamber out, a voice pierced the silence from behind her. "I told you, Jenny, there's nowhere to run." A hand, cloaked in darkness, seized her shoulder, wrenching her backward with unnerving strength. Jenny's scream echoed through the room as she struggled against the relentless grip, her fight for escape futile against the overpowering force. The hooded figure towered over her, their presence suffocating, their identity shrouded in the darkness. A sense of dread enveloped Jenny as she realized the sheer helplessness of her situation. The hooded figure leaned closer, their breath against her ear as they whispered, "It's too late now." In a horrifying moment, Jenny was dragged into the unknown abyss beyond her apartment, leaving behind only echoes of her piercing screams that faded into the night. The dark shroud of mystery and terror remained, an unsettling reminder of the perils that lurked within the maze of online connections. The night ended in an abyss of fear, leaving behind a mystic legacy of the dangers concealed behind deceptive encounters in the digital realm.